The diner clock ticked past midnight when the laughter began. The cruel kind that makes your stomach twist. The kind that doesn't sound like joy but power. In a corner booth sat Emily, a young woman with bright blue eyes and trembling hands that struggled to steady the straw in her milkshake. She had cerebral palsy, which made her movements uneven, her speech sometimes halting. But tonight, she had dared to go out alone for the first time in months. She was proud of herself, until the boys noticed her. 3 of them, loud and careless, sat near the jukebox. One whispered something that made the others roar with laughter. Emily tried to ignore them, her eyes fixed on the window and the rain outside. But when one of them walked over, the diner's atmosphere shifted. The cook looked up, the waitress froze, and for a moment, time seemed to hold its breath. "What's wrong with you, huh?" The boy sneered, his voice dripping with mockery. He mimicked her uneven arm movements, laughing like it was the funniest thing in the world. The other 2 joined in, their laughter growing louder. Emily's lips quivered as she tried to gather her words, but the tremor in her voice only fueled their cruelty. "Stop," she whispered, her eyes filling with tears. The laughter didn't stop. Instead, it crescendoed until one of them did something no one expected. He slapped her milkshake off the table, splattering pink liquid across the floor and onto her clothes. The slap wasn't to her face, not yet, but the humiliation burned deeper than any strike could. The waitress, an older woman named Dana, rushed over. "That's enough! Get out!" she shouted. But the boys only laughed harder. One of them, the tallest, looked down at Emily, whose shoulders shook as she tried to wipe the shake off her lap. "What's someone like you even doing here alone?" he said cruelly, then leaned closer. And then came the slap, a sharp, ugly sound that made the diner go silent. Emily gasped, her cheek flushing red. Dana grabbed the phone to call the police. But the boys had already run out, laughing as they pushed open the diner door and disappeared into the night. For a long moment, no one spoke. The rain outside hammered against the windows, and Emily sat still, eyes down, her breathing shallow. Dana knelt beside her, voice breaking. "Sweetheart. I'm so sorry," she whispered. But Emily only shook her head. "It's okay," she murmured, though nothing about it was okay. Dana cleaned up the mess, offered her a new milkshake. On the house. But Emily just stared at her reflection in the glass, seeing not herself, but the way the boys had looked at her, as if she was less. An hour passed. The diner grew quiet again, the late night hum of coffee machines and rain filling the air. Emily sat there, still trembling, her untouched milkshake now melting into a pink puddle. The door chimed. 5 men walked in, leather jackets, heavy boots, the smell of gasoline and the sound of engines still echoing from the parking lot. Bikers. Dana's eyes widened slightly. The regulars at this hour were usually truckers, not a motorcycle club. The men took seats across the diner, their presence heavy but calm. The leader, a tall man with a grey beard and deep eyes, noticed Emily sitting alone. Her red cheek caught his attention first, then her trembling hands, then the faint trace of a tear on her jaw. "Everything all right, sweetheart?" he asked gently, his voice surprisingly kind. Emily tried to nod, but the motion came out jerky and uncertain. Dana came over and explained quietly what had happened. The bikers went silent. The leader, his name was Cole, set down his coffee cup slowly. His expression changed from concern to something deeper, darker. "Did they say what car they drove?" he asked Dana. She nodded toward the window. "They were in that old red pickup. Drove off about 40 minutes ago." Cole exchanged a look with his men, who said nothing. They didn't need words. He stood up, pulling on his gloves. Outside, the rain had eased into a steady drizzle. The sound of motorcycle engines roared to life, deep and angry. Emily turned toward the window, her eyes wide. She watched as the headlights disappeared into the night, the thunder of engines fading into the distance. Dana placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "They're just going for a ride," she said softly, though she wasn't entirely sure where they were headed. An hour later, the door chimed again. The bikers returned, wet from the rain but silent. Cole walked over to Emily's booth and crouched beside her. "They won't bother you again," he said quietly. Emily blinked. "Did you?" Her voice cracked. Cole smiled faintly. "Let's just say we had a chat. Sometimes words work better when spoken by the right people." He pulled something from his jacket pocket. A small bracelet that said "Be brave." One of them dropped this when he ran. Thought maybe it should go to someone who actually knows what bravery means. Emily's lips trembled. She took the bracelet slowly, her fingers brushing against his callosed hand. "Thank you," she whispered. Cole nodded, then turned to Dana. "Can you make her something warm? We'll cover it." He tossed a $100 bill on the counter and went back to his seat. The men sat quietly, drinking coffee, occasionally glancing toward Emily's booth. The atmosphere in the diner shifted, not with fear, but protection. For the first time that night, Emily smiled, even if just a little. Over the next few weeks, the diner became something of a ritual. Every Thursday night, the same group of bikers stopped in. Sometimes they brought gifts for Lily, the waitress's granddaughter, or joked with Dana about her coffee being strong enough to clean an engine. But every time, they checked in on Emily. She started visiting the diner more often, slowly reclaiming the place that fear had tried to take from her. Cole learned that she volunteered at a local animal shelter, and one night, his entire club showed up to help repair a broken fence there. They didn't ask for attention or praise, they simply worked, laughed, and made her feel seen. One rainy evening, months later, Emily walked into the diner on her own again. Her steps were still uneven, but her eyes were bright. She carried a handmade card. On it, written in shaky letters, were the words, "Thank you for showing me that strength doesn't always come from fists." Cole smiled when she handed it to him. "You taught us something too," he said. "That courage isn't about fighting back. It's about standing tall when the world tries to push you down." As the night went on, laughter filled the diner again. But this time, it was genuine, warm, and shared. The clock ticked past midnight, and Emily realized she wasn't scared anymore. She had walked into that diner once feeling invisible and broken. But now, she walked out knowing she had a family that looked nothing like her, yet understood her better than most. Weeks later, Dana found a newspaper clipping left on the counter. It was about a group of young men who had been arrested for harassment after terrorizing locals. Beneath it was a handwritten note: "Justice takes many forms. Ride safe." No signature, but everyone knew who it was from. That night, Emily sat in the same booth by the window, the rain tapping gently against the glass. She wore the bracelet still. Be brave. Outside, she could hear the distant rumble of engines, not as a warning, but as a promise. Somewhere out there were people who wouldn't stand by and watch cruelty win. She smiled, sipped her milkshake, and whispered to herself, "Sometimes, angels ride Harleys." And in the glow of the diner lights, as the storm faded and dawn began to rise, her reflection looked back. Not as the girl who was hurt, but as someone who had found her strength, her voice, and a reminder that kindness, when fueled by courage, could change the world.